everybody. Welcome back to the Healing Room podcast, or welcome if you're new. My name is Eva Zion, and I'm your host. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Asha, and she is my IG and Clubhouse pal, and also a leadership coach for introverts. Good afternoon, Asha. Welcome to the Healing Room. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited. I heard a couple of these podcasts and I'm so honored to be invited to join and hop on here. So really excited.
Yay, thank you. We're excited and honored to have you too. So it's 2 p.m. here in Texas, United States. Tell the listeners where you're from and what time it is where you live.
I am currently in Singapore and it is 3 a.m. Yep, it's 3 a.m. And you know what? It's actually not so bad because most of my clients are from the States. So I'm usually like a night owl. So this actually works out perfectly.
Wow, true commitment. Thank you so much again for joining us at such a crazy time. So before we get started with the interview, I want to do a little game time. I hope you're up for a little rapid fire questions. Have you ever played that before?
I have, and I'm nervous. So let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Basically respond with the first thing that comes to your mind. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Favorite movie?
Oh no. Why is it when people ask this question when I heart Huckabees. There we go.
Nice. Most used phrase?
Oh, most used phrase. This is not fast. My brain is like not functioning. This is probably why I don't play this game so well.
Quick.
I have no idea. I mean, maybe, oh my God? It must be, oh my God.
We'll go with OMG. Great. Right-handed or lefty?
Left.
Favorite book?
The Brain by David Eagle.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for playing this game. I know it was spontaneous, but you handled it pretty well.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into this. So, what was your first experience knowing that you were an introvert?
It was really kind of a slow burn. I knew I was different, but I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know there were categories. And when I finally did find out, like, oh, there's a name for this. It's called being introvert. I think it wasn't really like a profound moment, because I think by then I had already realized there's probably something going on. I just haven't stumbled upon the name for it. And I mean, I've met a couple of other people who are just like that, less like me as well, right? Like feeling like, yeah, I'm not really down for like, the office hangouts or like going out a ton, like just not our thing. And so, it felt very natural. Sort of like, yeah, of course that makes sense.
I love that. I had such a dramatic knowing, so it's nice to hear that yours wasn't as intense as mine. A story for another day.
Oh, definitely.
So it's nice to know that you know who you are, because a lot of people don't know their personality trait. So what do you find the hardest part about being an introvert, or over your years of knowing that you're an introvert? What has been most challenging for you?
I think I think my hardest moments were back in school. It wasn't really in my working life, because I took a pretty unconventional route when it came to that. And it was basically everything that was conventional was tough for me. School was tough for me, like the way school was, the way it was done. It was very stressful. I had developed like major social anxiety. And so it was basically anything conventional, basically. It was me, yeah. So going to school and having to interact every single day at a, awful timing. I mean, waking up at a time that all of us collectively have agreed this is not the time we're supposed to wake up at. And then going to school and then interacting with, kids who we're all figuring out what's going on in life, who we are. Naturally, some of our worst traits would come out, like people would start going in groups and making fun of each other. It's just so overwhelming. And having to figure that out was really tough for me. I just could not figure it out. So for the most of my schooling life, I was that weird kid at the corner of school, like who just didn't really interact much. And I didn't go to school as a result. I missed 3/4 of school. I missed most of my schooling life because I would get so stressed out that I would start developing like asthma and like getting sick, and then just could not, because the stress was so insanely high. So that was probably the worst part of being an introvert, and realizing, that was the worst one, I would say.
Wow. To the point of receiving asthma attacks, that's huge. What did your
Yeah.
parents feel having to deal with that level of anxiety with their daughter?
I mean, I don't blame them for the reaction they have, which is basically, you just don't want to work hard. You just want to be lazy. Come on, school sucks for everyone. You're just trying to get your way out of everything. And, a lot of my cousins were also in a very similar boat, in the sense where they actually were kind of skipping school and doing this and that. And, so they just pretty much assumed that I was obviously getting sick, but they would feel like a lot of the sickness, a lot of the maybe symptoms were not as severe as I said it was, which it was, but I didn't blame them for that. So it was tough for them. They didn't force me ultimately, because I am an only child. So they didn't really know what to do with me. I had a powerful voice at home sometimes. So they sort of, they were like, you know what, they weren't happy, but they kind of just said, do your thing.
That is one thing that I think probably a lot of introverts today around the world probably deal with, that are still in grade school, probably like not really being able to cope with the way classrooms are built and things like that. And, I totally can relate with you when it comes to that. I had a similar situation in middle school where the teacher thought that I just wasn't focusing, but really, I just was receiving so much anxiety from these group class discussions that make us do. So similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to know that you experienced that, which is probably why you're passionate about being a leadership coach for introverts. What exactly is your sole purpose of what you do, the work that you do?
I really did kind of fall into it. I did not, plan to do this. It was really, it starts sort of aligned, because I was working in blockchain. I was doing copywriting for a couple of years. And I think it reached a point where I felt pretty confident in, the resume I had built, and, I could get more jobs if I wanted to. And I sort of saw this life ahead of me. Like, yeah, okay, I like to do jobs like that are project based. And I think that's also probably because I like the ease of having to control how much I spend time with people, and then like 3 months on, 3 months off kind of thing. That really works well out for me. But after I realized that I could do this for the rest of my life, it kind of gave me that freedom to kind of think, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And I said, okay, probably not. I don't think this is what, I like doing it. But so with that freedom of choice, I sort of thought, okay, what do I actually enjoy doing? I could do, what could I do that I will, even outside of working hours, I'll think about it. And it was analyzing people. It was analyzing people and helping them. I could kind of see like growing up, because I'm not sure if it's because of my anxiety, social anxiety and the introvert, like I basically was really good at reading people. And that was one of my skills. That was my ultimately my biggest skill would be looking at someone, having a conversation with them, and then seeing the dots that was sometimes, not really clear to other people. And I was like, I want to do that. And I want to combine that skill with a reason. Like, why would I, like, for what purpose would I do this for? And I was thinking, how can I help someone? How can I help someone? Like, I'm so, I don't think, I'm not like I don't have like decades of experience in life, and I don't know what I could do. And then I realized, no, I had severe social anxiety. And I don't have that anymore. And I know what, and I've led teams, like I'm like, wow, I completely forgot. I blocked off that part of my life, and I was like, how would I combine those two things? And so it wasn't like a passion I had in the beginning where I'm going to do this. It was really like I was thinking, what can I do? And I tried it out, and I got such a good response from people. They were like, social anxiety is really spoken about, and even when it is, the people who do speak about it don't really feel like they understand it really intricately. And so that's when I realized, okay, there we go.
Wow, I really love that. And I'm so grateful that you decided to take on that work, because honestly, there's not a lot of people doing this work for introverts, or even INFJs, which I am. Is your personality, I'm just curious, is your personality trait an INFJ as well?
No, I think I'm an ISFJ.
Ah, you're right next to the INFJs. Yep. So it's the same I, which stands for introvert. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with that, because even in the work I do right now, I agree with the work you're doing that there's a need for it. Because even in the work that I do right now, one of the duties I have is copywriting for my agency. And I really like to control how much interaction I have with people, which is why I decided to go the writing route. So I really like that, you're supporting people like me. And it's interesting to hear you have that range of that age range, the 20s to the 30s to the 40s. That's really, really interesting. Were you surprised that older people still needed this help?
I definitely was. I mean, my first ever client was a woman in her mid 40s, a nurse, a senior nurse. And I was like, what? I did not expect this. And it was definitely shocking. And I got, people in their 40s, people with kids, and then people like who were just like 18 years old. And I was like, wow, it's interesting how when I say like what I do, people relate to it very differently, but they can, at the end of the day, they can still relate to it. And I always tell people when I talk about my work, like the difference it's like same but different. You know what I mean? Like it's it's amazing. Like I would never have expected to have gotten people from such a wide range to see like, wow, we all struggle with this, and if we don't deal with it, it's still going to kind of show up, you know. And yeah, the people who are older, like their problems are so distinct. People who are younger are so distinct, and yet they're all connected by this like one thread, which is very, very definitely very interesting.
Wow. So in this work that you do, what do you find the most current reoccurring instance? Is it anxiety? Is it social anxiety? Is it I don't really know how to make friends? Anything specific that keeps coming up with your clients?
So when it comes to those who are older, it's very specific that I mean, everyone, all of them have the same problem is I don't have this trust in myself. And that itself is a kind of, it's not really, it's not isolated to just introverts. So I would say that is a problem that, we all kind of experience no matter who we are. But the older ones definitely experience like have trouble leading others. They're like, I am in a leadership position, I can't lead others. Like I'm always doubting myself, and that doesn't show up well in the office. Like how can I lead others when I'm like worried about how I come off and my ideas and how I speak. And it's all about the little micro expressions. It's all about the non-verbal things when it comes to leading others, especially when you're an introvert. It's not about the, authoritative sort of behavior, right? And so that's what the older ones like to work on. Like, how do I lead other people? I'm struggling with that. And when it comes to the younger ones, it is more of like, how do I deal with the anxiety of failure? I'm constantly worried about failing other people around me, failing my professors, failing my parents, failing someone, and I just can't deal with that.
Yeah.
So you can see like it's so distinct, but it's still, there's this core at the end. And the core, I would say, is the one that I found the common thread is usually something to do with their childhood. And that's usually a lot, like half of the work I do with my clients is pertaining to their childhood.
I love childhood work. Something I did in my therapy sessions is really understanding what I needed to heal from my past. So I really love that. when it comes to your coaching sessions, I'm interested to know like what that looks like. What is like, do you do like a intake, or kind of walk us through a session with you for those who might be interested in booking with you?
Beautiful. Definitely. So I played around like a couple of lengths, and I found that after a while, the 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks is like the perfect length. I don't do, just turn on and we just do indefinite amount of sessions. I do in kind of like a program, and it's structured in 4 phases. So the first phase is where I do hypnosis and I walk through their life experience. So this is where I help them kind of look into past experiences in their childhood, kind of look within and kind of piece things together while they're under hypnosis, help them piece things together as well, help them uncover memories, sometimes even talk about memories that they know and they're kind of upset about, but as an adult, you don't really feel so much when you talk about these memories. But when you're under hypnosis and I guide them through the whole process, they start feeling things they didn't realize that they felt. And I start helping, I make them, feel connections, like make connections in their head and walk through their life experience. And that's the first session and the first phase. So it kind of lets them look at their whole life as something that's completely different, like a framework. I like to say, look at yourself and you as a framework. You make sense. And nothing about you is random. Everything makes sense. So I want you to look at your life experience, look at the details, start paying attention to things and see if you can make connections here and there. And that phase lasts a week. And after the session, they go back. I give them a hypnosis audio to listen to. I give them some actions to do, like some things to read. And usually within the first phase, like after that week, they start thinking like, oh my goodness, this happened to me, that happened to me. And they start making these connections. And it becomes so empowering because they realize that what they do, how they think, how they act, how they feel is directly kind of linked to something in the past. It's not real in a sense. They like, oh, I just feel that because of that, not because I'm like that. And that gives them so much power to feel like in the moment when they feel such emotions, negative emotions, they can say, wait a second, this isn't real. This is actually something that connects to the past. I can see that now. And that itself is just a wonderful experience. So the second phase, I take all the information from the first session with them, and I show them their personality type, like expanded, like their personality framework, basically, and go into detail, like how they function, what is their core motivation, what is their core fear, what is the mental strategies that they use to deal with stress, what are their negative biases that they have, they carry. So I'll show this to them, and now they're overwhelmed. They're like, I actually am like this. You just drew a map of me. That's so weird. And then they're connecting it to the first week, and now they're seeing, wait a second, all of this makes sense. I'm seeing like I am someone who can grow. I'm someone who makes sense. And with that, in that personality breakdown, they see their unique strengths. Like they see like I am objectively better at this than most people are, because this is how I am. At the same time, I'm also objectively, struggle at these things that some other people won't have. So they get a really nice objective view of like, wow, this is who I am. And that itself is, they absolutely love that. Some of them feel a lot of despair, actually. Some of them feel despair for a while. They're like, oh my goodness, this is how I function. I'm so flawed. Why must I be like this? Why can't I be like anyone else? This is the worst type to be. And I tell them, no, every type feels that way. Don't worry about it. That's the second phase. The third phase, I teach them how to identify other people's type. And I'm using the Enneagram personality model for this. I teach them what to pay attention to in the things people say, in the things like the way people act, in the way people solve problems. So I'm teaching them like, what do you need to pay attention in an individual that could help you form an understanding of their type, possibly what the type would be. And now when you understand someone's type, potential type, you can kind of see how to communicate with them. right? It's more of like it provides you an easy to use framework rather than each individual person you're learning like their individual like communication styles, and it's so overwhelming when you're like, I think that person is that type and I'm this type, and objectively if I think about it, this would be the problem, these would be the problems that these types could kind of clash at. And I know how I can talk to them. So that's the third phase, learning how to read. And the last one is more assertive communication. After learning how to identify people, learning about how you function, how do you put this all together and be assertive in a way that fits you? Yeah.
Wow.
So that's like the whole thing.
No, that is beautiful. I'm very interested now in getting more information from you for myself, actually, because that was just, I mean, wow. I felt like I went on a journey of like a self-discovery. It feels like you really thoughtfully planned this out and really, really honed into what an introvert needs to feel like a leader and to understand more of who they are and how they can be around people. And I think that's what we all need. And there's not a lot of those, I mean, introverts. That's kind of like what we need because we don't have a lot of things created necessarily really towards the introvert. Even in the business place, icebreakers even are things that are, just there's a lot of different things all over the world that are just not.
That triggered me a bit. You said the word icebreakers and I was like, no, I don't want to hear that. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I did tweak it here and there, and it went a lot of thought went into this, and I really do appreciate that you enjoyed hearing me explain how it works, because I am always so hyped up when I explain it, because the change I've seen in individuals, even I was like surprised by the end of it, because I couldn't even recognize some people. And only 8 weeks, it's not that long of a time span. So to see the change was absolutely wonderful. And thank you for.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. So Asha, thank you so very much for coming on the Healing Room podcast. We just
Absolutely.
we appreciate the work you're doing, especially being up at this time for us. We are so blessed and grateful for you. And lastly, where can the people find you on social handles if you have any?
Yeah, I haven't posted in a while because you know me, but Instagram's perfect.
Instagram, okay.
Yeah.
And it's at Asha Jacob, or
it's Asha Jacob Coaching.
Asha Jacob Coaching also will be in the caption below, y'all. Check her out. Check her out. She's amazing. And book, well, you can't book, but maybe figure out a waiting list here. Email her, okay? See if you can get on the waiting list. Thank you, Asha. You have a wonderful rest of your morning and day, and we'll be talking to you soon.